So in this video, I want to talk about one of our best-selling products, which is the Scandinavian Redwood Pine, or European Redwood. So it's predominantly comes from Swedish and Finland forests, and it's an FSC or a PEFC product. Basically, the reason for its renowned sustainability is for every one that they cut down, they plant two diligently, and in vast forests as well. So the sustainability record of it is fantastic. But I want to talk about it not just from the point of view of how sustainable it is and how fantastic that environmental side of things is, but also why it's such a good performer for us and all of our customers, and why we rate it so highly for its performance, its uses, and its quality as a pine softwood timber. So when we think of pine in the UK, quite understandably, we think of pine as in the sort of pine you might get from timber merchants or builders merchants, and perhaps even your DIY merchants, like your B&Qs and your kind of wicks and stuff like that. But there is a distinct difference between the kind of pine you get there and the kind of pine that we're talking about selling, like your redwoods. So the main difference is the timber that you get from the builders merchants is a CLS. CLS simply stands for Canadian Lumber Standard. That basically means it's your standard building material, which is a fast-grown pine that can be used for all manner of structural framing, basically. So when you're building walls, like stud walls, and you're framing out buildings, this is the kind of thing that you'd want to get. It's cheap, it's very lightweight. The fact that it's fast-grown means it's fantastically sustainable and also abundant, so there's plenty of it, so no need to worry about the sort of shortages as well. It's available in vast volumes. So it really is a great product. It's not one that I want to talk down, especially because I've done loads of stud walling using this stuff before, and I will continue to use it because of its, like I say, it's because of how low cost it is and how lightweight, and using an impact driver and screwing into it is fantastic because of how soft it is. But then compare that to redwood pine that we have here, which is an unsorted grade, so slower grown, much denser as well. I'm just going to show you the cross section of these timbers so you can really get an idea of the grain structure. So you can see how wide apart these growth rings are compared to the growth rings on that. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that this is denser, and that density really is going to work really well for you from the point of view of strength, but also from the point of view of stability as well. And also, it's about having a crisp edge. Something you'll notice from the CLS timber is it's got an eased edge, and it's quite soft. So if you knocked it, you'd probably dent it quite easily, whereas this is a lot sharper and a lot stronger. So they're the differences between what is effectively a pine whitewood CLS and a redwood pine unsorted grade or joinery grade. So we talked a bit about stability, and stability really is key. When you bring a redwood pine into a warmer, drier environment, and you bring it into commercial environments or your houses, offices, things like that, all of a sudden those different properties in the moisture levels and the temperature can have an effect on timbers. So you need something that's going to be pretty tight grained, pretty strong and stable, so that things don't start to twist and move. Now, when you go to the builders merchants, you probably quite often see the whitewood pines they've got there can be very twisted. It can have kinks in them. So that's another reason why this stuff's really good. Also, it's got fewer knots in it. Now you can see that I've got a knot or two in there, but you tend to get less knots, and those knots are more stable. And when we say that they're stable, that really means that they're not drop knots. They're not going to fall out. They're not going anywhere. But a tip is that if you are using this and you're planning on painting it, you may need to use a knot treatment oil on it. So what would be good uses for this kind of timber? Talked a little bit about the whitewood pine, the CLS, being used for stud walls. You can conceivably still use this stuff for stud walls. We have a lot of customers come here to use it for that. They like it because it's very stable and very straight. So when they're framing out, they know that they've got pretty good millimetre tolerance here and there. So every time they're building something, it's all going to be nice and satisfyingly square and plumb, and they're not having to fight with the timber to get it all back to shape. So it can work really well for that. But this is a much better looking product. It's a much more decorative product. So you can conceivably use this for interior joinery where you've got that higher level. Now you can use it for furniture, use it for worktops, tables, you can use it for skirting boards, architraves, but stuff that you can potentially oil up or varnish and actually have showing its natural look. And that's just purely because I think it is a beautiful product. It's not like your utility timber. It's it's a higher quality, prettier looking product. But for getting things square for joinery, that's the key thing. Having that crisp edge, having that guaranteed stability on it means that it's so much better for building things like furniture where you've got all those clean lines and you've got those consistent kind of sizes and levels. So yeah, it's much better for interior joinery and even exposed beams. So if you've got to have beams structurally supporting, but also you want to have them visible rather than covering them with plasterboard, that's the key thing. If it's going to be seen and you want it to be pine, you need an unsorted grade redwood. So we talked a bit about skirting boards and architraves and things like that. So for interior joinery purposes, another big seller for us here is because we do the unsorted grade redwood pine, it's a bit prettier to look at. We do a lot of cladding, interior cladding. So this is just your basic beaded T&G, bit rough on the face. So this one was a bit of a reject for, but actually this is your standard kind of tongue and groove paneling, like a matchboard or like a feature wall, something like that. So we do a lot of this. That would be a good reason to choose the unsorted grade because, like I say, you want something prettier to look at rather than essentially something that looks a bit like carcass timber. So that's one of the great uses for it. Skirting boards wise, I actually had some skirting board in my garage that was in the cold and the damp for about a year or so, and procrastinating on a job, as you do sometimes. I went back to doing those skirting boards and I expected them to be really bent and all out of shape. But the unsorted redwood pine, amazingly, was completely straight and true, even though it had been outside in the damp and in the cold. So that just shows you that sort of level of quality that you're going to get with this type of product. What kind of sizes can you expect to buy this in? Well, it's a very standard product in sort of lumber sort of terms in terms of sizes. So you've got, in thickness, you've got your 25 inch, you've got 32 inch and a quarter, 38 inch and a half, then you've got your 2 inch, 50 mil, then you start to go up in 65, 75, and then you've got your 100, so 4 inch you can go up to. The kind of widths you get, very standard again, so you can get 125 mil, 150 mil, so 5 inch, 6 inch, 175, 7 inch, and you quite often get, I think the max standard size you get in redwood pine is a 225, so a 9 inch wide board, and those are usually worked from the point of view of your claddings or your interior joinery sort of sizes. Lengthwise, they kind of go up in feet increments, really, from your 8 foot, so 2.4 up to 3.6. Then you get your 4.8, and so it's all very standard. That's pretty much it. That's the reason why I want to hero this product, because it's just fantastic. It's one of my favourites. I love working with it. And if you are really geeky about it, it's a pleasure to work with it because as you're cutting it, it's so soft, so easy to cut, at the same time as being very, very strong in its performance as well. So you get the best of both worlds. It's also quite a nice smell when you're cutting it as well, which you get that lovely pine sort of smell. But it really is a proper, what you would expect to get from your pine, good quality, and accessible for most people that want to work on their home projects and their customers' projects as well. So get in touch with us and find out what prices we can do for you and what sizes we can get.